This is the story of a struggling mom and a compassionate cashier whose lives intersected in ways neither could have predicted. From skipping a shift to sparking a movement, this tale will remind you why even the smallest gestures can change everything. Stay tuned, it's more inspiring than you think. Welcome back to Tales with Sekos. Today I am going to share an inspiring story with you. And make sure to subscribe this channel for more unique and twisting stories. Life has a way of testing us in moments we least expect. For Rachel, a single mother juggling 2 jobs and raising her 6-year-old son, every day felt like walking a tightrope. One misstep, one unexpected expense could send everything crashing down. But on a chilly Tuesday afternoon, inside the fluorescent lit aisles of a local grocery store, something extraordinary happened. Something that would remind her of the goodness still left in the world. It all began with a simple act of kindness from an unlikely source. Elena, a young cashier whose own life had been shaped by hardship. What started as a routine transaction at the checkout counter turned into a chain reaction of compassion that would ripple far beyond the walls of the store. And what happened next? Well, it left not just Rachel, but everyone involved, utterly speechless. The story begins on a typical weekday afternoon. Rachel stood in line at the grocery store, clutching a basket filled with essentials, bread, milk, pasta, and a few snacks for her son, Noah. It wasn't much, but even this modest haul stretched her budget to its limits. As she waited her turn, she glanced nervously at the clock on the wall. She was already running late for her second job, and the weight of exhaustion pressed heavily on her shoulders. Rachel's life hadn't always been this difficult. Just 3 years earlier, she'd been happily married, working part-time while her husband supported their family financially. But when he passed away unexpectedly, everything changed. Overnight, Rachel became both mother and provider, scrambling to make ends meet. Despite her best efforts, the bills piled up, and sacrifices became a daily reality. Yet through it all, she refused to let despair take hold, not while Noah depended on her. Today, however, was particularly tough. Her car had broken down earlier that week, leaving her reliant on public transportation. A missed bus connection meant she arrived at the store later than planned, and now time was slipping away. Standing in line, Rachel did quick mental math, calculating how much she could afford after factoring in gas money for tomorrow and daycare fees. Every penny mattered. When Rachel finally reached the front of the line, she placed her items on the conveyor belt and forced a polite smile for the cashier. That's when she noticed Eleanor, a young woman with kind eyes and a warm demeanor. There was something about her presence that immediately put Rachel at ease, though she couldn't quite place why. Elena scanned the items quickly, her movements efficient yet unhurried. When the total flashed on the screen, $42.76, Rachel hesitated. She rummaged through her wallet, counting out crumpled bills and loose change. Her heart sank as she realized she was $8 short. Panic bubbled beneath the surface, but she swallowed hard, determined not to cry in front of strangers. "I'm so sorry," Rachel stammered, her voice trembling. I don't have enough. Can I put some things back?" Elena paused, studying Rachel's face. She saw the fatigue etched into her features, the worry lines around her eyes, and the way her hands shook slightly as she clutched her purse. Without hesitation, Eleanor leaned forward and said softly, "Don't worry about it. You can skip your shift today." For a moment, Rachel froze, unsure if she'd heard correctly. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Elena smiled warmly, her tone reassuring. "I'll cover the difference for you. Consider it my treat." Tears welled up in Rachel's eyes as she tried to protest. "No, I can't let you do that. You don't even know me." But Eleanor simply shook her head. "Sometimes we all need a little help. Trust me, it's okay." With those words, Elena rang up the remaining balance using her own money, handing Rachel her receipt with a gentle smile. "Take care of yourself, and your little one," she added, before turning to assist the next customer in line. Straightening her shoulders, Rachel gathered her groceries and hurried out of the store, her mind racing. She didn't know Elena personally, yet the young woman's kindness had touched her deeply. In that brief interaction, Rachel felt seen, not as a struggling single mom or a faceless customer, but as a human being worthy of compassion. It was a feeling she hadn't experienced in a long time. That evening, as Rachel tucked Noah into bed, she recounted the day's events. "A nice lady at the store helped Mommy today," she explained softly. brushing a strand of hair from her son's forehead. She reminded me that there are good people in the world. Noah yawned sleepily, snuggling closer. Maybe we should say thank you, he murmured. Rachel nodded, though she wasn't sure how, or if, she'd ever see Elena again. Still, the idea lingered in her mind, planting a seed of gratitude that would soon blossom into something greater. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to Rachel, Elena's decision to help wasn't made lightly. Like Rachel, Elena carried her own burdens. At 24, she worked long hours at the grocery store to support her younger sister, Ava, who suffered from chronic health issues. Their parents had passed away when Elena was just 18, leaving her as Ava's sole guardian. Money was tight, and sacrifices were constant. But despite the challenges, Elena believed in the power of kindness. We've been given so much by others, she often told Ava during their quiet evenings together. It's our responsibility to pay it forward. That belief guided Elena's actions, even when it meant stretching herself thin. Helping Rachel may have seemed small to outsiders, but to Elena, it was a reminder of the interconnectedness of humanity, a thread that binds us all, no matter our circumstances. The following morning, Rachel returned to the grocery store, not to shop, but to express her gratitude. Armed with a handwritten note and a bouquet of flowers she'd picked up from a nearby vendor, she approached the register where Elena worked. "Excuse me," Rachel said hesitantly, catching Elena's attention. "Are you the same cashier who helped me yesterday?" Elena looked up, recognition dawning on her face. "Oh, hi, yes, that was me. I wanted to say thank you," Rachel continued, holding out the flowers and note. "This isn't much, but I hope it conveys how much your kindness meant to me." Elena accepted the gift with a surprised smile. "You didn't have to do this," she said earnestly. "Really, it was nothing." "It wasn't nothing to me," Rachel replied, her voice thick with emotion. "You reminded me that people still care, and honestly, that's something I desperately needed." As they spoke, a bond formed between them, one built on mutual understanding and shared struggles. As Rachel and Elena exchanged heartfelt words at the register, neither realized how profoundly their lives were about to intertwine. What began as a simple gesture of kindness would soon spiral into something far greater, a testament to the power of compassion and the ripple effects it creates. After accepting the bouquet and note, Elena glanced down at the handwritten message Rachel had included. It read, "Thank you for seeing me when I felt invisible. Your kindness reminded me that there's still goodness in the world. Please know you've made a difference." Tears pricked Elena's eyes as she folded the note carefully and tucked it into her apron pocket. "You have no idea how much this means," she said softly, her voice filled with sincerity. "But honestly, I was just doing what anyone should do." Rachel shook her head, her expression earnest. "Not everyone would have done what you did. That's why it mattered so much." The two women shared a quiet moment before Rachel excused herself, promising to return another time. As she walked away, Elena watched her go, feeling an unexpected sense of connection. Little did she know, this encounter was only the beginning. Over the next few weeks, Rachel found herself thinking about Elena often. The young cashier's act of generosity had sparked something within her, a renewed determination to pay it forward whenever possible. Whether it was offering a kind word to a frazzled parent at daycare or leaving an encouraging note for a coworker having a tough day, Rachel began looking for opportunities to spread kindness in her own small way. But it wasn't until one rainy Saturday afternoon that Rachel decided to take things a step further. While browsing social media, she stumbled upon a local community group dedicated to supporting struggling families. Inspired by Elena's example, Rachel posted a short story about her experience at the grocery store, omitting names but emphasizing the impact of a stranger's kindness. The post quickly gained traction, resonating with readers who flooded the comment section with messages of gratitude and inspiration. Some shared their own stories of being helped during difficult times. Others pledged to perform random acts of kindness themselves. Within days, the post had been shared thousands of times, reaching people far beyond Rachel's immediate circle. One commenter stood out in particular, a woman named Grace, who ran a non-profit organization focused on providing resources to single parents. Moved by Rachel's story, Grace reached out privately, asking if she'd be willing to share more details about her situation. Though hesitant at first, Rachel agreed, meeting Grace for coffee later that week. Grace listened intently as Rachel recounted the challenges she faced daily, from juggling multiple jobs to ensuring her son Noah had everything he needed to thrive. By the end of their conversation, Grace offered a proposal that left Rachel stunned. "Our organization wants to help you get back on your feet. We can provide childcare assistance, job training programs, and even financial counseling, all tailored to your needs." Rachel blinked back tears, overwhelmed by the offer. "I don't know what to say," she admitted. "This is incredible." Grace smiled warmly. "Say yes. You deserve this, Rachel. And besides, we believe in empowering people like you to create brighter futures, not just for yourselves, but for your children too." With Grace's support, Rachel enrolled in a job training program designed to equip participants with skills in high-demand industries. For the first time in years, she allowed herself to dream of a life where she wasn't constantly scrambling to make ends meet. Meanwhile, Noah thrived under the care of a new daycare provider recommended by the nonprofit, allowing Rachel to focus on her studies without guilt or worry. But Rachel wasn't the only one whose life was changing. Back at the grocery store, Elena noticed subtle shifts in her own perspective. After Rachel's visit, she began paying closer attention to the customers passing through her line, offering smiles, kind words, and occasional discounts when someone seemed particularly stressed. To her surprise, these small gestures often elicited profound responses. One evening, a middle-aged man approached her register, visibly agitated after realizing he didn't have enough money to cover his groceries. Sensing his frustration, Elena stepped in once again, covering the shortfall with her own earnings. "It's okay," she assured him. "We all need help sometimes." The man stared at her, tears welling in his eyes. "You have no idea what this means to me," he choked out. "My wife lost her job last month, and we've been barely scraping by. This is a miracle." Elena nodded, her heart swelling with empathy. "Take care of your family," she said simply. "That's what matters most." Unbeknownst to Elena, the man she'd helped was none other than Mr. Thompson, a prominent businessman known for his philanthropic efforts. Touched by her selflessness, he decided to investigate further, learning about the struggles faced by employees at the grocery store. When he discovered Elena's role as both a caregiver to her younger sister Ava and a compassionate presence at work, he resolved to make a difference. A few weeks later, Elena received an unexpected phone call from Mr. Thompson himself. "Mrs. Elena Carter?" he asked, his tone formal yet warm. "I'm calling because I'd like to discuss an opportunity that may interest you." Intrigued and slightly nervous, Elena agreed to meet him at a nearby cafe. Over coffee, Mr. Thompson explained his plan. "I've established a scholarship fund aimed at helping individuals pursue education while balancing familial responsibilities. Based on what I've learned about you, I believe you'd be an ideal candidate." Elena's jaw dropped. "Are you serious? But why me?" Mr. Thompson smiled. "Because kindness deserves recognition, and because investing in people like you benefits everyone." Elena accepted the scholarship, enrolling in night classes to earn a degree in social work, a field she'd always dreamed of entering but never thought possible given her circumstances. With Ava's health improving, thanks to better medical coverage provided by the scholarship, Elena finally felt a glimmer of hope for their future. Meanwhile, Rachel continued to flourish under Grace's mentorship. She graduated from the job training program with top marks, securing a stable position at a local tech company. For the first time in years, she could breathe easy, knowing she had a safety net beneath her. Determined to honor the kindness she'd received, Rachel became actively involved in Grace's nonprofit, volunteering her time to assist other struggling families. One crisp autumn morning, nearly a year after Rachel's initial encounter with Elena, fate brought them together once again. This time, it wasn't at the grocery store, but at a community event hosted by Grace's nonprofit. The theme of the evening was Kindness in Action, celebrating stories of generosity and resilience that had inspired change across the city. Rachel spotted Elena immediately, waving enthusiastically as she approached. "I can't believe you're here," Rachel exclaimed, pulling her into a tight hug. "How have you been?" Elena laughed, returning the embrace. "Better than ever, thanks to some amazing opportunities. What about you? You look fantastic." As they caught up, Rachel introduced Elena to Grace, explaining how their paths had crossed and the profound impact it had on her life. Grace listened intently, nodding approvingly. "It seems the two of you are destined to inspire others," she remarked with a smile. "Why don't you join us on stage tonight? Share your story. It might encourage someone else to keep going." Though initially hesitant, Both women agreed, stepping onto the stage hand in hand as the audience erupted into applause. Standing before the crowd, Rachel spoke first, recounting the day Elena's kindness changed her trajectory. Sometimes, all it takes is one person believing in you to remind you of your worth, she concluded, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. When it was Elena's turn, she reflected on the domino effect of Rachel's gratitude. Her willingness to share our story online opened doors I never imagined possible, Elena explained. It taught me that kindness isn't just about giving, it's about creating connections that uplift everyone involved. By the end of their speech, not a dry eye remained in the room. Audience members lined up afterward to thank them personally, sharing how their courage and vulnerability had reignited their own faith in humanity. That night marked a turning point, not just for Rachel and Elena, but for countless others inspired by their journey. In the months that followed, the ripple effects of their actions continued to grow. Local businesses partnered with Grace's nonprofit to expand its reach, while schools implemented programs teaching students the importance of empathy and service. Even Mr. Thompson expanded his scholarship fund, naming it the Kindness Catalyst Initiative in honor of Elena's influence. Dozens of recipients went on to pursue careers in fields ranging from healthcare to education, each carrying forward the legacy of compassion that had touched their lives. And yet, amidst all the accolades and achievements, Rachel and Elena remained grounded. They knew the true measure of success wasn't fame or fortune. It was the ability to make someone else's burden lighter, even if only for a moment. One evening, as Rachel tucked Noah into bed, she paused to reflect on how far they'd come. "Do you remember the nice lady at the grocery store?" she asked softly. Noah nodded sleepily. "Yeah, she helped us, right?" "She did," Rachel confirmed, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. "And because of her, we've been able to help others too. Kindness is like magic. It keeps spreading forever." Noah yawned, snuggling closer. "Can we keep doing it, Mommy?" Rachel smiled, kissing his cheek. "Always, sweetheart, always." Meanwhile, Elena sat beside Ava on their apartment balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink. "Do you think we'll ever stop meeting amazing people?" Ava asked, leaning her head against Elena's shoulder. Elena chuckled softly. "I hope not. Every person we meet teaches us something new, about ourselves, about the world, about what it means to truly live." Ava grinned. "Well, I'm glad we met Rachel. She's pretty cool." "She sure is," Elena agreed, her gaze drifting toward the horizon. "She reminds me that even the smallest acts of kindness can spark monumental change." And so, the story of Rachel and Elena serves as a reminder that kindness isn't confined to grand gestures or heroic deeds. It's woven into the fabric of everyday moments, the decisions we make when no one's watching, the sacrifices we endure for the sake of others, and the connections we forge despite our differences. In the end, it's not about changing the world overnight. It's about planting seeds of hope, nurturing them patiently, and trusting that they'll grow into something beautiful. Because sometimes, all it takes is one act of kindness to leave someone speechless and change everything. The ripple effects of Rachel and Elena's kindness continue to spread far beyond what either woman could have imagined. What started as a simple act at a grocery store checkout had transformed into a movement, a testament to the power of compassion in action. But the story didn't end there. In fact, it was only beginning to unfold. Months after their appearance at Grace's nonprofit event, Rachel and Elena found themselves invited to speak at larger forums, community gatherings, schools, and even corporate workshops. Their message remained consistent: kindness is contagious, and its impact extends far beyond the initial gesture. Each time they shared their story, new connections were forged, inspiring others to take action in their own lives. One such connection came during a panel discussion hosted by a local university. Among the audience members sat Dr. Marcus Chen, a psychologist specializing in resilience and human behavior. Intrigued by Rachel and Elena's narrative, he approached them afterward with an idea that would amplify their reach even further. "Your story has incredible potential," Dr. Chen explained over coffee later that week. "I've been researching how acts of kindness influence mental health and societal well-being. Your experiences align perfectly with my findings, and I believe we can create something transformative together." Rachel raised an eyebrow, curious but cautious. "What exactly are you proposing?" Dr. Chen leaned forward, his eyes alight with enthusiasm. a documentary series highlighting real-life stories of kindness and resilience. We'll follow individuals like you two, showcasing not just the challenges they face, but also the ways they overcome adversity through connection and empathy. Elena glanced at Rachel, her expression thoughtful. It sounds amazing, but do you really think people will care about our story? Dr. Chen smiled warmly. Absolutely. People crave authenticity. They want to see proof that goodness still exists, and that small actions can lead to big changes. You're living proof of that. After some deliberation, Rachel and Elena agreed to participate. Over the next several months, cameras followed them as they navigated their daily lives, interacted with those they'd helped, and reflected on the journey that brought them here. The documentary premiered on a chilly winter evening, drawing crowds to a packed auditorium downtown. As clips of Rachel and Elena's interactions played across the screen, viewers witnessed firsthand the depth of their struggles and triumphs. From Rachel balancing work and motherhood to Elena caring for her sister while pursuing her dreams, every frame resonated with raw honesty and vulnerability. But perhaps the most powerful moment came when the film showcased the broader impact of their kindness. Viewers met Noah, now thriving in school thanks to increased stability at home, Ava, whose improved health allowed her to pursue her passion for art, and countless others whose lives had been touched directly or indirectly by Rachel and Elena's actions. When the lights came up, the audience erupted into applause, many wiping away tears. Rachel and Elena stood side by side on stage, humbled by the response. "We never set out to inspire anyone," Rachel admitted, her voice trembling slightly. "We were just trying to survive and help each other along the way." Elena nodded, adding, "If anything, this proves that none of us are alone. No matter how tough things get, there's always someone willing to lend a hand, or accept one." The success of the documentary sparked a wave of interest nationwide. Schools incorporated screenings into their curricula, using Rachel and Elena's story to teach students about empathy and community responsibility. Corporations adopted similar themes in employee training programs, emphasizing the importance of fostering supportive environments. Even social media campaigns emerged, encouraging people to share their own kindness catalyst moments. One campaign, aptly named Number Kindness Keeps Spreading, gained particular traction. Participants posted videos detailing acts of kindness they'd experienced or performed, tagging others to continue the chain. Within weeks, millions joined in, creating a virtual tapestry of goodwill that transcended borders and cultures. Among these participants was Mia, a teenager from a neighboring town who credited Rachel and Elena's story with helping her navigate her own challenges. Diagnosed with anxiety and depression, Mia had struggled to find purpose until she stumbled upon the documentary online. Inspired by their resilience, she began volunteering at a local animal shelter, finding solace in caring for creatures as vulnerable as she once felt. Mia eventually reached out to Rachel and Elena via email, sharing how their story had changed her life. Moved by her words, the pair invited her to join them at a community outreach event where Mia spoke publicly for the first time about her journey. Her courage inspired dozens of attendees to seek help for their own mental health struggles, proving yet again that kindness creates ripples far beyond what we can see. As the years passed, Rachel and Elena remained pillars of their respective communities. Rachel transitioned into a leadership role within Grace's nonprofit, mentoring young mothers navigating similar hardships. Under her guidance, the organization expanded its services, offering everything from financial literacy workshops to parenting support groups. Elena, meanwhile, graduated top of her class and secured a position as a social worker, specializing in youth advocacy. Leveraging her platform, she collaborated with Dr. Chen to develop educational resources aimed at teaching children the value of empathy from an early age. Together, they launched a program called Seeds of Kindness, which partnered with schools to integrate kindness-based activities into everyday learning. But perhaps the most profound legacy lay in the personal growth both women experienced. For Rachel, helping others became a source of strength, reminding her that she wasn't defined by her struggles. And for Eleanor, witnessing the tangible results of her sacrifices reinforced her belief in humanity's capacity for good. One crisp spring morning, nearly 5 years after their initial encounter at the grocery store, Rachel and Elena reunited at a park near the nonprofit's headquarters. It was a sunny day, filled with laughter and chatter, as families gathered for the annual Kindness Festival. an event celebrating acts of generosity and unity. Standing beneath a banner emblazoned with the words, "Kindness changes everything." Rachel turned to Elena with a nostalgic smile. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we hadn't met that day?" Elena chuckled softly. "All the time. But then I remember, it wasn't just us. It was everyone who chose to keep spreading kindness after that. That's what made all the difference." Rachel nodded, her gaze drifting toward the crowd. Children ran freely, vendors handed out free treats, and volunteers distributed flyers promoting various charitable initiatives. Everywhere she looked, evidence of their collective impact surrounded her. "You know," Rachel said thoughtfully, "sometimes I think about how scared I was back then. Scared of failing, scared of losing hope. But now I realize fear doesn't define us. What defines us is how we respond to it, and whether we let love guide our choices." Elena placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "And look where love led us. To this moment, to all these people." Together, they watched as balloons were released into the sky, symbolizing the endless possibilities born from a single act of kindness. Below, a young girl tugged at her mother's sleeve, pointing excitedly at the banner overhead. "Mommy, what does kindness mean?" she asked innocently. Her mother knelt down, smiling warmly. "It means being kind to others, sweetheart, like sharing your toys or helping someone in need." The girl's eyes widened with understanding. "Oh, like the nice ladies who talked about helping people." Her mother laughed, nodding. "Exactly like them." In that fleeting exchange, Rachel and Elena exchanged a glance, silently acknowledging the full circle their journey had come. They hadn't set out to change the world, they'd simply chosen to be kind. Yet in doing so, they'd ignited a movement that touched countless lives, proving that even the smallest gestures hold immense power. As the festival wound down and the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the park, Rachel and Elena lingered behind, reluctant to leave. A plaque near the entrance caught their eye, engraved with a quote that summed up everything they'd learned. "Kindness is a language the deaf can hear and the blind can see." Hand in hand, they stood before it, reflecting on the path that had brought them here, and the countless paths yet to be forged. So, the next time you're faced with an opportunity to help someone in need, remember this story. Remember Rachel and Elena. Remember the strangers who became family, the fears that turned into strengths, and the ripples of kindness that continue to shape the world. Because in the end, it's not about changing the world overnight. It's about planting seeds of hope, nurturing them patiently, and trusting that they'll grow into something beautiful. And sometimes, all it takes is one act of kindness to leave someone speechless and change everything.